Hi, my name is Sean Nelson, and today I'll be focusing on a particular marble statue in Italy called the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. It stands in the Carnaro Chapel in Rome. It was created by John Lorenzo in 1645 and was finished in 1652. It was made out of marble and it's very beautiful. The person depicted in this piece of art is Saint Teresa, one of the many pioneers of the Counter-Reformation set in place by the Catholic Church in the Council of Trent. Saint Teresa was a theologian, a mystic, a writer, and a Carmelite nun. She was the grandchild of a Spanish Jew who was forced to convert to Christianity during the Spanish Inquisition. She was honored as a doctor of the Church by the Pope, one of the only two women in the history of Catholicism. What is the purpose of this work of art? Well, I believe the purpose of this statue is to communicate the theme of her writing, which have stories that tell of a spiritual position she describes as ecstasy. The facial expression of Saint Teresa is truly one of perceived ecstasy. In which her eyes are closed and her mouth is open. Her limbs also hang haphazardly at different angles, communicating a lack of control over one's body movements and one of pleasure. I think this art hopes to communicate to the viewers an encouragement and an exhortation to seek God, and that true ecstasy is only found in Him. The reason I believe this is because the church at the time was in upheaval over doctrinal matters and practices, and was arguing against Lutheranism, and was in a headlong battle of the Counter-Reformation. It was also a time of unrest in the church, and I think the artist wanted to communicate the basics of faith, to rest in God and experience His love and His ecstasy. This art is also a physical translation of a section of one of her writings in her autobiography, which she talks about an encounter she had with God. About this encounter, she writes, quote, "I saw in his hand a long spear of gold, and at the iron point there seemed to be a little fire. He appeared to me to be thrusting it at times into my heart, and to pierce my very entrails. When he drew it out, he seemed to draw them out also, and to leave me all on fire with the great love of God. The pain was so great that it made me moan, and yet so surpassing was the sweetness of this excessive pain that I could not wish to be rid of it. The soul is satisfied now with nothing less than God. The pain is not bodily, but spiritual, though the body has its share in it. It is a caressing of love so sweet which now takes place between the soul and God, that I pray God of His goodness to make him experience it who may think that I am lying." End quote. This art is a representation of that story. This work of art was made out of stone by the artist Jean Lorenzo in the Baroque style, which perfectly matched her writings and the thought of that time. The composition of this art, I see this piece of art as a challenge to discipline myself in my faith. It's one that challenges me to seek God more and remain in the ecstasy of His love, even when the world pierces my heart, as the angel promises in the sculpture. It's a Baroque piece of art right after the Renaissance. And last but not least, I believe that symbolically, this work of art is a contemporary picture of what individual believers are meant to look like amidst the crazy world. It is also a challenge to really seek God and focus on the ecstasy of His love, so that nothing can be of more importance. I think it's a picture of what Paul and Silas and many of the great theologians of our faith, the pioneers of our faith, look like on a daily basis as they commune with God and sought Him out and prayed and fasted and disciplined themselves spiritually. Not to say that brings you closer to God, but denying oneself also brings us in a better position to experience God. And that's what I think that she was talking about in this writing, and what John Lorenzo meant to communicate by sculpting this piece of art. Well, that's all I got for you today, and I hope you appreciate the piece of art I chose and the explanation I gave it. Thank you. God bless.